Welcome to Dark Horizon Creations. This time we're taking a look at the Star Trek First Contact Starship Enterprise by Playmates Toys. Now, if you haven't already, please follow, like, and subscribe to my social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget to hit that bell icon so you get a notification of when I post new content. Alright, so tonight we're taking a look at the USS Enterprise by Playmates Toys. This is from Star Trek First Contact, the motion picture. This was released back in 1996. I found this down in Florence, South Carolina at Galactic Comics. They had it for sale for $80. I picked it up as part of a trade. I do not know what the retail cost on this was at the time of release. Most likely it was around $30. Typically you see this ship going for $80 to around $150 mint, sealed in the box, as this one is. So, taking a look at the packaging, you've got your Star Trek First Contact box art with the Borg over on the left. Down at the bottom, you've got the Star Trek 30th Anniversary logo. You also have the Collector's Series Edition sticker. This is number 19846 in the series. Box is in pristine condition. Of course, you've got the Enterprise there on some box art. You've got the cutout for the Try Me mode. And I'll bring this in closer so you guys can see and hear this. Those are the factory batteries. This is sealed in the box. They still work. On the back of the packaging, you get some obligatory product shots of the ship on its display stand and the inset in the center. You can see some of the action features. In the lower left, you got some of the other toys in the Star Trek First Contact toy line. Upper left, you've got a brief bio. It says Federation Starship Profile, USS Enterprise, Registry NCC 1701E. And if you guys don't know what the NCC stands for, it's Naval Contract Code. Captain of the ship is Jean-Luc Picard. Propulsion is warp drive. It says NCC 1701E was commissioned to replace its predecessor, which was destroyed by renegade Klingon attack at Veridian 3. It is the sixth starship to bear the legendary name Enterprise. The first Enterprise, 1701, was captained by James T. Kirk, whose famed exploits led Starfleet to commemorate his ship by passing down its name to future generations of vessels. Below that, it says the Borg are back. The most lethal threat to humanity's existence has returned with a new starship and a new strategy for conquering Earth. The Federation's defenses fail and the Terran system is about to be conquered. Faced with assimilation by the Borg, Starfleet turns to Captain Jean-Luc Picard and his crew from the new USS Enterprise. They stopped a Borg invasion once before, but this time fate is against them. To save Earth, they must boldly go where no one has gone before. Alright, so we have the Enterprise in the box, and usually I transition to having the toy open outside of the packaging, ready to get into the review, but this time I want to do something different. So I want to do a unboxing of this, if you will, so that you guys have an opportunity to see what it looks like coming out of the package brand new. So to begin, come up here and break this tape. And I am a box collector for stuff like this. I try to keep the integrity of the outer box as much as possible. Okay, so you can see what it looks like in the sleeve. And you have to admit, not only was the build quality of these toys back then much better, even the packaging was better. They took really good care of these toys. So we'll start by cutting this away, and what this is the ventral section of the engineering hull. It's an alternate cover when you're not using the display stand. That's what that is. There's your two warp nacelles. They look really nice. This one has a little bit of separation right there. I don't think it's going to be something that you can alter. This one's got it too as well. Beyond that, they look pretty good. After you collect toys like this for, a number of years, you kind of pick up on little stuff like that. You know what to look for. Trying to see the best way to get this out of here. That. And this is the, you guys can see that's the base for flight stand. And I'm just gonna go ahead and separate that. Trying to prevent untaping this, but I'm not gonna be able to do that because of how wide it is. There's your display base. There's the ship itself. Carefully cut this if I can get to this part here. And to assemble these, you would just take, and slide it in and it snaps into place like that. That's what it looks like. There's the Enterprise. And you can see this is the battery compartment. There's a number 2 Phillips screw. So if you decided you wanted to take it off the flight stand to display with it, you could switch out that bottom ventral section. I'm not going to take this out of the plastic, but that's the only difference. It has this cutout and these ports for the pegs on the bottom of the display base to go in. And I'll tell you right now, this isn't in as secure as it looks. You could easily knock the ship off of the display base, so be aware of that if you buy one. So I want to bring this over so you can see this. On the bottom of the nacelles, they are notched individually, so you can't just put them on either of the pylons. This one goes here. And they're kind of finicky. They require a little bit of force to go down. You can hear it snap into place. It's not all the way down. This side's the same way. And that one snapped into place easy. This one did not. I'll try it again. Now, it's down now. Yeah, they're both in position. All right, so here we have the Starship Enterprise outside of the packaging, fully assembled. Now to begin, I want to talk about some of the history behind this toy for those of you that may or may not know. This particular iteration of the Enterprise E was based off of concept art provided to Playmates Toys by Paramount Studios during pre-production of Star Trek First Contact. Because of that, there are some differences between the appearance of this toy and the on-screen models of the Enterprise used in that film. The first major difference is the design of the nacelles. You see the Bassard collectors are an exposed, transparent housing assembly, which is totally different than the on-screen design for the Bassard collectors. The warp nacelle housing themselves are also slightly different, as is the placement of the impulse engine. In the concept art, the impulse engine was located in the center, running down the spine of the ship, and to either side of it, port and starboard, are two hangar bays for the shuttlecraft. That ended up being discarded, and the final on-screen model had the primary shuttle bay here with two impulse engines to either side. So that's the major difference between this toy and the on-screen version of the USS Enterprise E that we see in Star Trek First Contact. So let's talk about dimensions. The Enterprise E is 18 inches in length and just under 6 inches wide. All right, so let's remove the Enterprise E from the display base so you guys can get a better view of it up close. See the molded in deflector dish down there. It's molded in red. Saucer section and bridge right here. You've got your briefing room here. The captain's ready room would be right here. There's no viewports molded in there for that. You got your aft observation deck, spine of the ship, your hangar bays here, impulse engine here, nacelles, roll it over on the ventral side, more lifeboat hatches. These are the ventral side saucer deflector arrays that augment the main deflector dish there. Primary photon torpedo launchers there. Secondary shuttle bay there. All the way around, it's a really, really nice looking ship. I do like it. Clip it back into the display base. All right, so let's talk about the main play features of the Starship Enterprise, which are the electronic light and sound features. There are 3 push buttons here on the top of the spine of the ship, just above the impulse engine. press the first one, second one, and then the third one. So now that we've taken a look at the details and features of the Starship Enterprise, as well as the electronic lights and sounds, you've probably noticed that I have refrained from applying the decals to this toy, and there's a reason for that. When I purchased this, I had previously purchased the Star Trek Insurrection Enterprise E by Playmates Toys, and my intention was to use this one as an alternate ship. I was going to have someone print out some custom decals to apply to this to make it a different Sovereign class vessel. So with that said, I want to do a brief side-by-side comparison with the Insurrection version so that you can see some of the differences between these two toys. Alright, so here they are side by side, and if you look at the Insurrection Enterprise, you'll see that I've begun repainting it. I'm painting in all the panel lines, painting in all of the viewports. That's why some of them are white, some of them are black from the factory. I've also applied the decals to that particular ship. You can see the differences in the design of the warp nacelles, as well as the hangar bay and the impulse engines on the newer ship, which is identical to the screen used variant. If you look there in the lower right quadrant on the Insurrection version, you'll see that it does have the viewports for the captain's ready room and the other rooms around the bridge. On the back, you'll see it has the viewports for the observation deck. The hangar bay is in place, and it's a different design altogether than the upper module on the First Contact variant. So both of these are really nice ships. They made some changes and improvements on the Insurrection release ship from the First Contact model. In all honesty, I'm partial to the First Contact ship. I like the color of the hull. It's almost a white, really light gray color, where they used a darker, like ghost gray for the Insurrection release. Also like the design of the nacelles better on the First Contact version. Sort of a callback to the original Enterprise nacelles. What I don't like are the sound effects. If they had included the phaser array and photon torpedoes on the First Contact ship, it would be perfect. Overall, this is an awesome collectible and toy. Well worth picking up and adding to your collection. So there you have the Star Trek First Contact USS Enterprise by Playmates Toys.